well, I'm going to get started here. As I said, I don't have a whole lot of battery life on my iPad. I didn't think that through too well. But, you know, how long does an unboxing take anyway? A couple of minutes, really, right? So, I'm excited about this. This is big news for me. It's a big deal. I have 2 boxes to choose from. I think I will start with the smaller box first. Can't really see me opening said box. But I don't want to give away the surprise, but in these boxes are drums. I know that seems crazy, but it's true. All right. And any guesses, first of all, any guesses on what kind of drums I might be unboxing today? Let's see some guesses from the crowd here. Dan, I know you had a guess yesterday. Let's see if I'll give you guys a minute to Camco, Dan Peterson. And why would you think I have a Camco drum set? Why on earth would you think that? Round ones, Paul Smith. Excellent guess. Excellent guess. You get at least a few points for that. Gary, it's not a new blender. I wouldn't put you through this. I've already unboxed that upstairs. Okay, well, Stephen Kohler, DW. That's a pretty good guess too. Where's the camera? There it is. Okay, well, I'm going to just get right to it. I've sort of maybe given it away here. Dan Peterson is the winner. This is a 1971 Camco drum set that I've just come in possession of. Thanks to a really cool guy named Bob Saul, who could be watching right now. I want to thank Bob, and I also want to thank my friend Steve Ford, who was the person that put me in touch with this drum set. Basically made me aware of it. I hadn't seen it listed on Marketplace, and I got in touch with the seller, Bob. We had a great conversation, several great conversations, and I'm happy to be the proud owner of this beautiful Camco drum set, which was, as many of you people know, the sort of missing link to my collection. I'm going to say it right here, right now. I'm done with drum sets. I'm done. I don't need any more drum sets. If you see me or hear about me talking about getting another drum set, I don't know. Come to my house and restrain me. Because I'm saying right now, this is it. So, Anthony, great question. The sizes are 13, 16, 22, and I'm going to get to that right now. Okay, so this, of course, is the 16 by 16 floor tom. This is not the original finish, but the seller, Bob was selling this, Bob Saul, who I mentioned, is selling this on behalf of a friend of his. And the seller, I guess, refinished it himself. And it's okay, you know, it's not the worst finish I've ever seen, but I may do something about that in the future. I'm thinking a nice natural maple stain would be pretty nice, i.e. Doug Clifford. So here's the 16 by 16. They just came yesterday. They're not tuned. Bob was nice enough to put new heads, my preferred Remo, of course, all I use, heads on them. So it's going to need to be tuned up a little bit. So here's the 16 by 16. In this box, this is fun unboxing. I'll do this more often. It's the 9 by 13. I like to call real drum sizes. None of those small drums for me, you know. 12 and 14 toms, too small. Too small for what I do. Okay, a beautiful 9 by 13 tom-tom. And this has a Rogers Swivomatic mount system set up. The kit was originally two mounted toms, two 9 by 13s, the bass drum, and a floor tom. Again, I'll mention Bob Saul, great guy. And I highly recommend, by the way, if you're looking for something in Camco, go to his page on Facebook. He is all things Camco drums. He was kind enough to sell me this kit as just one 9x13, 16, 14 by 22. Kept the other 13 that I would never use. And then set it up for me so that I can use the Swivel-matic lefty. So I'm actually going to play this kit, I believe, with the tom-tom mounted on the bass drum, which I haven't done since I was probably 13 years old. I think when I first got my Gretsch drum set in 1974, I went full-time to putting the tom-tom on a snare stand. It was just too much trouble trying to get it on a tom mount. But we all know the Rogers Swivel-matic stuff is top-notch. So I'm excited to mount this onto the bass drum and hopefully get the right position and not have to bring my snare stand to gigs anymore. We'll see. So here's the 9x13. Sounds pretty good already, right out of the box. And this guy, of course, is disassembled for shipping. So I'm going to just show you what I have in here. A lot of packing. I will say Bob packed this kit so beautifully. I think he said to me, you can drop it from the building and it'll be okay. I think he's right. It was packed so well. Not a worry in the world. I'm going to save this for my grandkids this weekend. We'll have fun with that. All right. So it has maple hoops, which is great. So if I do decide to have it refinished in maple, it's all ready to go. Let me show you the bass drum. This is a dream for me to own a Camco kit inside of the shell. I'm going to install a Kelly Shoe system in here with a Shure Beta 52 microphone. I've already got that in the works. I was on the phone with Jeff Kelly from Kelly Shoe over the weekend, and he's sending me all the parts and components. And my buddy Ryan Smith at Shure Microphones is hooking me up with a bass drum mic. So everything is all in play, and I want to give a big shout out to both of those guys, and Jeff's wife Kathleen, Jeff and Kathleen Kelly from Kelly Shoe. Big thanks to them. Big thanks to Ryan Smith at Shure, who is just the best. Just celebrating 30 years this week at Shure Microphones. Shane Kinney at Drum Center of Portsmouth, sending me my EQ pads. I already mentioned Steve Ford and Bob Saul. I don't want to forget my brother, the award-winning Chris Hart from Remo, who always has my back. And I'm excited to have some, we've got good heads for this kit to start with. But I'm going to probably put a coated P3 head on the batter side of my bass drum. It came with a P3 pin strap, I think. Yeah. And check it out. So this is the LA era of Camco, 1971. And again, I don't know the history as well as probably a lot of people, but I guess they went from Oaklawn, Illinois to LA and then ended up, I'm sorry, not LA. Yes, sorry. I think I got that right. And then they ended up in, well, I don't know, maybe an export. Bob told me all this stuff over the weekend. Anyway, this was not the last period of Camco. It was not the end. It's sort of in the middle. So that made me feel very comfortable that I was getting, the Jasper shells, really the original Camco formula. It just had moved from Oaklawn to when Kustom amplifiers own them. So this is exciting. I'm very excited. Some of you might know I work for Drum Workshop. When DW drums first came onto the market, I worked there from 1986 to 1989. I was there when we launched DW officially in 1987. So it's just kind of a funny thing that I never owned a DW drum set, and they were modeled after these Camco drums originally. The original DWs were based on the Camco design, the shell construction, Obviously, the lugs are the same. But I don't know why I shied away. And DW makes beautiful drums, obviously, beautiful drums. But I shied away, but I've had this hankering for a vintage Camco kit for some time. My really good friend John Ferraro, who has a couple of Camco kits out in LA, has kept an eye out for me. I almost bought one that he had, but it wasn't really quite what I was looking for. And then he had a local guy there in LA that wanted to come pay him a ton of money for it, and John wouldn't have to ship it. So I said, John, sell it to him. Don't worry about it. And I just kind of kept my eyes open, and things do come around. So here it is, my Camco kit, 1971, a good year. Probably 1971 was the best year for music. Think about the records that came out that year. Who's next? Led Zeppelin 4, Sticky Fingers. I went through the list one time. There's just a ton of great records that came out in 1971. So this is great news. I also want to just say that the only guy that's ever packed a drum set as well as this set is my buddy Dan Peterson, who's watching right now, who sold me my chrome over wood Gretsch that I got last year. So Dan, a shout out to you for all the great work you do as well. All right, so can we see the plies in the shells? Anthony, great question. Yes, I will show you the bass drum. That's the only one that doesn't have a head. There is not a snare drum with it. That will be my next endeavor at some point, but I could probably spend as much on a snare or close to it to what I paid for this whole kit, so I'm not going to rush out and look for a Camco snare. But I will say, if any of my friends out there are watching and you want to sell me a Camco snare for next to nothing, I'd be open to that. But I don't imagine there's anybody out there who wants to do that, because they are, as my son pointed out, they're crazy money when I told him about this drum set. But I do have a DW snare that's maple and natural maple, and it'll go nicely with this kit, and I will use it. So anyway, Anthony, is that good enough to see the shell construction? Applause. Let me get tape on the shell. That's no good. So, yeah, it's beautiful. And I know when I first went to work for DW, I remember this is what, the shells had the ring-rings, and I'm sure DW still makes the shells this way, but this is exactly what I remember those early DW drums looking like. So, anyway, I hope this isn't half as exciting for you guys as it is for me. I was going to wait and put all the heads on and put it together and set it up, but I wanted to do this unboxing. I thought that would be a little more fun. So anyway, that's that. The next time you see this kit, it will be put together and completed, and probably in my practice area. Thank you, Christy. I think it's pretty too. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, let's see. Before I end this little decadent little broadcast, thanks for watching. Wow, lots of folks watching. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I don't know if I mentioned my friend Richard King. If I didn't, I want to thank Richard King in advance, because I just today found on Richard's page some vintage Camco hardware that looks brand new. And I just bought it from him. He's going to ship it today, I think. And I had just bought from him some vintage Gretsch hardware to go with, with some of my vintage Gretsch drums. And, if you don't know who Richard King is, I met him, I became aware of him originally through Chooch McGee and Charlie Watts 25, 30 years ago. He was the guy supplying Charlie with a whole bunch of vintage Gretsch drums. And Richard has a page where he sells incredibly clean, pristine looking vintage hardware, vintage drums. Amazing. He's a great, vintage drum provider, seller. So check him out, Richard King. And he also has a page devoted to Charlie Watts called Charlie's Drums, and posts a lot of pictures of when he goes see the Stones and stuff he's provided Charlie. So anyway, thanks to Richard King, a big shout out. And all my drum buddies out there. I so appreciate all the things you guys do, and we're all lucky to be in this family together. So thank you. That's all I got. I got drums to play. I got stuff to do, so I can't hang here all day and talk with you. I gotta go. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Come see my band next week. I might be playing these drums, maybe. You never know. All right. See you around. Thanks.